Welcome to the Phil and H Travel Podcast, Is It Worth It? Today we are going to the island that serious divers have been quietly calling the most extraordinary dive destination on the planet, Taveuni, Fiji's Garden Island. We're talking Rainbow Reef, the Somo Strait, the Great White Wall, and soft corals and shades of pink, purple, and orange that you genuinely cannot find anywhere else on Earth. But here's the honest reality check before you book. Getting here costs more than people expect, staying here costs more than people budget, and the infrastructure is so limited that one delayed domestic flight can collapse your entire itinerary. Today we're giving you the full USD breakdown, the logistics traps you have to know, and the honest verdict on whether Taveuni is worth every single dollar or whether you should stay in Nadi and call it a day.
Yeah, it truly is the ultimate travel paradox.
Right.
Because the very things that make Taveuni so pristine, like so intensely desirable to travelers who want that real explorer feel, those are the exact same things that make it incredibly difficult to navigate if you show up underprepared.
Oh, exactly.
Okay.
Imagine stepping off this tiny propeller plane onto an actual grass airstrip.
Right.
Your cell phone instantly loses service. Boom, dead. You find out the nearest ATM is a 40-minute drive down an unsealed dirt road.
Yep.
And your boutique hotel runs on a diesel generator that, might just cut out in the middle of the night.
Which happens a lot.
It does. And then you look at your credit card statement and realize you are paying $5,000 for the privilege.
Yeah.
So today we are figuring out why thousands of people do exactly that and why they leave saying it was the best trip of their lives.
That's fascinating.
I've absolutely devoured the travel briefs, the logistics reports, the economic breakdowns, all the ground level reality of Taveuni, and we are going to walk you, the listener, through every single layer of this island.
That's the mission today.
We're covering the geography, seasonal weather, accommodation tiers, food supply chain, and the exact daily budget you need, down to the dollar. We'll outline the brutal logistics traps, analyze safety, discuss the honest disappointments, compare it to two major alternative islands, and finally deliver our Is It Worth It matrix for 5 specific types of travelers.
Because we are cutting right through the aspirational marketing of Fiji, we want to look at the hard, unvarnished reality of a remote island ecosystem.
Yeah, because if you're going to spend your precious time and your hard-earned money going all the way to the South Pacific, you need to know exactly what you're stepping into.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this foundational geography because you can't really understand the logistics until you understand the map.
Right, you need a layout.
So if you are looking at an aerial view of Fiji, Taveuni is the 3rd largest island in the archipelago. It covers about 470 square kilometers.
Which is roughly the size of Barbados, just to give you a mental model.
Right. It sits up in the northern part of Fiji, and it's separated from the 2nd largest island, Vanuatu, by this narrow 8-kilometer channel of water called the Somo Strait.
And that 8-kilometer gap is, honestly, perhaps the most biologically important piece of water in the entire South Pacific.
Oh.
It really is the absolute engine of the island's tourism.
We are definitely going to get into the biology of that engine, but looking at the human footprint first, it's remarkably small.
Very small.
Taveuni has a population of just about 16,000 people. The main administrative settlement, which honestly feels more like a sleepy outpost, is this place called Waievo on the west coast.
Yeah, but if you're a tourist, your entry point is way up in the far north.
Right. That's where you'll find the only commercial airport, a place called Mate, airport code TVU.
Yep.
And if you are trying to fly in there, you have exactly one option, Fiji Airways, specifically their domestic branch, Fiji Link.
That's it.
They operate a total monopoly on the domestic routes. There are 0 budget competitors. You either pay their rate or you just don't fly.
Yeah, and this isn't due to some nefarious corporate conspiracy, right? It's just basic aviation economics.
How so?
Well, small island nations simply cannot sustain multiple domestic carriers. The government essentially has to protect that route just to keep these remote islands connected to the mainland.
Oh, sure.
A low-cost carrier needs massive scale, huge volume, rapid turnarounds to survive. Mate's infrastructure cannot support that. So the monopoly is basically the only thing keeping the air bridge open.
That makes sense. I mean, even if it hurts the wallet a bit. But once you actually get off that plane, the landscape is staggering.
Oh, it's beautiful.
We are talking about an island where 80% of the landmass is deeply protected rainforest. It all falls under the Buma National Heritage Park.
Yeah, 80%.
It is so ecologically isolated and pristine that it holds endemic species you literally cannot find anywhere else. Like, the most famous is the orange dove, which, I mean, sounds like something out of a fantasy novel.
Really does.
But I gotta say, here is where it gets really interesting, and this detail completely blew my mind. The 180th meridian.
Oh, yes. The timeline.
The international dateline literally slices right through the island of Taveuni, like it runs right through a village on the western side.
Yeah.
You can physically stand with 1 foot in today and 1 foot in tomorrow. Tell me about this, because as a psychological quirk of travel, this feels completely surreal to me.
It is one of those rare, profound geographical anomalies that you can actually experience on the ground.
Right.
The 180th meridian is, by definition, the exact opposite side of the globe from the prime meridian in Greenwich, London. So technically, purely longitudinally, this is where the new day begins on Earth.
That's wild.
Now, obviously for practical, political, economic reasons, Fiji draws the official time zone line around its maritime borders so the whole country operates on the same day.
Okay, so you aren't actually changing your watch when you walk through the village.
Exactly. You keep the same time. But geographically, the absolute meridian is right beneath your feet. There's a marker there where you can take the obligatory photo.
Of course, the tourist shot.
Right.
Yeah.
But psychologically, for a traveler, it creates this incredible sense of being at the very edge of the map. It forces you to realize exactly how far you have traveled from your normal reality.
Wow.
You aren't just in a different time zone. You are standing on the literal seam of the calendar.
Standing on the seam of the calendar, I love that phrasing. It really emphasizes the remoteness.
It does.
But as cool as time travel is, the main reason people are flying to the seam of the calendar is underwater.
Oh, absolutely.
Taveuni is known globally as the soft coral capital of the world. And that all happens in the Samasomo Strait, feeding this massive 32-kilometer stretch called Rainbow Reef.
Yep.
You mentioned earlier that the 8-kilometer gap between Taveuni and Vanuatu is the engine of all of this. Why? Like, what is the biological and physical mechanism behind this specific strait fueling such an explosion of coral?
Yeah, so
Why here and not on the other 300 islands in Fiji?
it comes down to a perfect storm of oceanic hydrodynamics.
Okay.
Imagine the Pacific Ocean as this massive, slow-moving conveyor belt of deep, cold, nutrient-dense water.
Right?
When that massive volume of deep ocean water hits the complex underwater topography of Fiji, it gets pushed upward and forced through whatever gaps it can find. The Samasomo Strait is essentially a funnel. It's a narrow 8-kilometer bottleneck between two substantial land masses.
Like putting your thumb over the end of a garden hose.
Exactly. Yeah. When you force a massive volume of water through a narrow gap, the current accelerates dramatically.
Oh, I see.
And that fast-moving water is carrying microscopic nutrients, phytoplankton, zooplankton, everything that soft coral polyps need to thrive.
Okay, so it's a buffet.
Precisely. Unlike hard corals, which rely heavily on sunlight and photosynthesis through their symbiotic algae, soft corals are aggressive filter feeders.
Interesting.
When that current starts ripping through the strait, the soft corals literally inflate. They open their polyps to feed on this rushing microscopic buffet. Wow.
So that 8-kilometer bottleneck creates the perfect nutrient-rich storm to support an absolutely massive 32-kilometer explosion of life along the Rainbow Reef. It is biology fueled by geography.
That is incredible. But, knowing how those deep ocean currents feed the reef doesn't really help you if you book your trip during a month when agricultural runoff turns that crystal clear water into, muddy soup.
Exactly. The hydrodynamics are constant, but the weather is absolutely not.
Right. Which means we need to talk about context, crowds, and the seasons. The hard truth here is the best time to go is strictly April to November.
Yes.
That is Fiji's dry season. And it is realistically the only sensible window for most visitors.
Yeah, if you are going to spend the money and endure the logistics, you need to target that April to November window. That is when you get the pristine conditions that actually justify the expense.
Got it.
The water temperature sits very comfortably between 26 and 30 degrees Celsius, which is roughly 79 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, that's really warm, like bath water. It is. And that is critical if you are doing multiple extended dives a day. You won't get deeply chilled.
Oh, right.
More importantly, because there is minimal rain, there is minimal river runoff from the rainforest. That means the visibility on Rainbow Reef can easily reach 20 to 40 meters.
40 meters of visibility is just absurd. You're basically floating in mineral water at that point.
You really are.
But within that dry window, July and August are the coolest and the driest. And because of that, they are heavily booked. Like, if you want to go then, you are booking a year in advance.
At least a year, yeah.
Now, what about the other side of the calendar? November to March. If I find a cheap flight in February, should I take it?
You should proceed with extreme caution.
Really?
Yes, November to March is the wet season, and it brings heavy, sustained tropical rain. The runoff from Taveuni's mountain rivers pours directly into the strait, which reduces your underwater visibility significantly.
Oh.
You might drop from 40 meters of visibility down to 10 or 5. Furthermore, this is cyclone season in the South Pacific.
Yeah.
A cyclone can shut down domestic flights and ferry services for weeks.
Oh, wow. So you could get stuck.
Exactly. The only specific subset of travelers who target the wet season are serious marine biologists or divers, specifically chasing manta rays.
Manta rays.
Yeah, because they tend to be more active and feed near the surface during those nutrient-heavy rainy months. But even if you go in the dry season, remember, Taveuni is a rainforest.
Right.
The humidity is intense year-round. You will be sweating the moment you step out of the shower.
Oh, absolutely. It is not a dry heat. And here is the 2026 crowd reality that we have to address. Taveuni is no longer a hidden gem.
No, it's really not.
Like 10 years ago, it used to be this whispered about secret among hardcore dive masters. Not anymore.
Yeah.
International dive operators are running dedicated live aboard ships that anchor right in the strait. Group packages from Europe and North America are super common. And a luxury property called Paradise Taveuni actually won a massive 2026 Reader's Choice Award.
Right, which changes things.
It formally pushes the island into what the travel industry calls the aspirational mainstream. So I have to ask you, if Taveuni is in the mainstream now, with live boards and global awards, are we too late? Has the golden age passed?
It is a valid fear, but what's fascinating here is the concept of a barrier to entry filter.
Okay, tell me about that.
Yes, the island has won awards.
Yeah.
Yes, the global dive community knows about it.
Yeah.
But Taveuni still does not have, and likely never will have, the overcrowding you see in Nadi or the Mamanuca Islands.
Why not? If people know about it, why aren't they swarming it?
Because the friction is simply too high. That is the barrier to entry. To get to Nadi, you take one direct international flight, you take a 20-minute air-conditioned taxi, and you are by the pool with a cocktail.
Right. It's easy.
Exactly. To get to Taveuni, you have to book a separate, expensive domestic flight on a tiny plane that only flies a few times a week. You have to risk weather cancellations, you have to deal with unsealed roads and patchy Wi-Fi. That logistical friction naturally protects the island from casual over-tourism.
Oh, I see.
It filters out the traveler who just wants an easy, mindless weekend. The people who actually make it to Taveuni are the ones who are highly motivated, patient, and invested in the specific ecosystem. So no, you aren't too late. The island has a built-in logistical defense mechanism against losing its soul.
That built-in defense mechanism is incredibly obvious the very second you arrive.
It hits you immediately.
Let's talk about those first impressions and the reality of this intentional remoteness. I want you, the listener, to picture this. You are landing at Matei Airport. You are in an ATR turboprop plane, which, by the way, those planes are small. They are heavily weight restricted.
Oh, and they enforce those weight limits ruthlessly.
Really?
Yeah. If the plane is full and the air is hot, which reduces lift, they will not hesitate to bump your checked dive gear to the next flight just to meet the safety weight requirements for takeoff.
Oh, man, just to make sure the plane can get off the ground.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
So you finally touch down on a grass-fringed airstrip. There is no massive international terminal with duty-free shops, VIP lounges, or central air conditioning.
Definitely not.
You step off the propeller plane into a physical wall of dark green humidity. Dense jungle is pressing right up to the edge of the runway.
It is an immediate, almost shocking sensory reset.
Absolutely shocking. You grab your bag from a wooden cart. You look around and you see unsealed dirt roads. You see traditional Fijian burrs, which are, the wood and thatched straw huts.
Beautiful, yeah.
You see community gardens full of taro. You see local children waving at the plane from the side of the road. It is beautifully disorienting, but then the practical reality hits.
And it hits very hard if you aren't mentally prepared.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about the money first. There are no ATMs in the Matei tourist zone. None. Zero.
Nope.
The nearest reliable bank is a 40-minute drive away down an unsealed road in Waiovo. Your mobile data is going to be incredibly patchy. Even if you buy a local SIM card, you might only get a 3G signal on one side of a hill.
If you're lucky.
Right. The resort Wi-Fi is famously unreliable because it relies on satellite uplinks and local generators. You are essentially cut off from the digital world. You can use US dollars or Australian dollars at the major resorts, but if you want to buy anything in the villages, if you want to buy a snack at a roadside stand, you need physical, local Fijian dollars.
This is where we have to deeply analyze the appeal of intentional remoteness.
Okay.
Why is the lack of an ATM or the fact that your phone can't load a social media feed actually Taveuni's greatest asset?
Because it sounds frustrating.
It does.
Right.
But in our modern lives, we are completely tethered. We are constantly connected to a grid of financial transactions, emails, and notifications. We expect seamless, frictionless existence.
Yeah, everything is instant.
Exactly. When you arrive on Taveuni, the island forces a complete psychological disconnect. You cannot just tap your phone to solve a problem. You cannot summon an Uber.
No Uber in the jungle.
No Uber. You have to actually talk to people. You have to plan your cash withdrawals days in advance. You have to exist fully in the physical space you are occupying.
I like that.
It demands profound presence. That intentional remoteness is what preserves the local culture, but more importantly for the traveler, it is the only thing that allows you to actually decompress.
It forces you to be where your feet are. You can't live in the cloud. You have to live in the jungle.
Exactly.
But of course, navigating this unsealed, disconnected, beautifully remote jungle requires a base camp. You have to sleep somewhere.
You do.
And the disparities in accommodation on Taveuni are wild. There is no standard middle ground. There are 4 distinct tiers. And we need to look at the exact pricing numbers because Taveuni is not a cheap backpacker haven once you are on the ground.
No, it is a market of extreme polarities.
Let's start at the bottom. Tier 1, budget. We are talking $30 to $60 USD a night.
Okay.
You've got places like Stephanie's Homestay near Matei or a small cluster of basic rooms around Beverley Beach. At this price point, you get a fan, no air conditioning, you get cold water showers, and you have to arrange your own meals entirely, meaning you are cooking what you can find at the local markets. This tier exists, but the supply is incredibly thin, and you have to book it months in advance.
And we need to be honest about what that feels like.
Oh, yeah, lay it out.
A cold water homestay requires a very specific, resilient type of traveler. If you have just spent 6 hours on a dive boat, enduring the sun, the salt, and the physical exhaustion of swimming against currents, coming back to a hot, humid room with no AC and a cold shower is grueling.
Oh, that sounds miserable.
It's really tough. It is not a relaxing vacation at that point. It is an endurance test.
Right, which pushes most divers to Tier 2, mid-range. This is $100 to $180 a night.
Much better.
We're looking at places like Jewel Divers and Swiss Fiji Divers. These are simple rooms, but they run on dedicated generators for power, so you usually have a working ceiling fan and warm water.
Which is huge.
Crucially, they often bundle your meals with your diving. This is the sweet spot. If you book your accommodation and your diving as a package here, the sources indicate you save about $40 to $60 a day compared to booking your room and your dive separately.
That is the pragmatic choice. That tier is built by divers, for divers.
Okay.
You aren't paying for luxury. You are paying for the logistical convenience of having your gear washed and your meals cooked so you can focus entirely on the underwater experience.
But if you want actual resort comfort, you step up a Tier 3.
Right.
Boutique. $200 to $350 a night.
Yeah.
Garden Island Resort is the anchor property here. It is located right next to the Rainbow Reef entry points, which is a massive time saver. You get oceanfront rooms, an on-site restaurant, a dedicated, highly professional dive center.
Yep.
But here's the economic kicker. Those rates represent a 15% bump over what they were charging in 2024.
And that price increase is driven entirely by macroeconomics.
Really? How so?
You had a massive post-COVID demand surge for remote travel, crashing into a completely static supply of rooms in a protected ecosystem.
Ah, basic supply and demand.
Exactly.
And then the absolute top end. Tier 4, luxury, $350 to well over $600 a night. Paradise Taveuni is the prestige property here, the one that won the Reader's Choice Award.
Yeah.
We are talking boutique, oceanfront burrs, private plunge pools, and all-inclusive dive packages. If 2 people want to stay here for a week, all-inclusive with diving, it will cost between $4,900 and $7,000 USD.
Wow.
And that does not include your international or domestic flights. I just have to marvel at that gap. You can stay on this island for $30 a night, or you can spend $7,000 a week.
It's an incredible range.
But wait, if there is so much demand for comfortable rooms, why doesn't a developer just come in, buy a plot of land, and build a massive 200-room Marriott to capture that mid-market? It seems like free money.
It seems like free money until you understand the reality of Fijian land law and the economics of the missing middle.
Okay, unpack that.
In most established tourist destinations globally, say Hawaii or Mexico, you have a massive inventory of standard $150 a night chain hotels that balance the market. Taveuni doesn't have that, right?
Right.
First, because 80% of the island is protected heritage park. Second, because of native land laws. The vast majority of land in Fiji is Aitakai land. It is communally owned by indigenous Fijians.
Oh, I see.
It cannot be permanently bought or sold by foreign developers. It can only be leased through incredibly complex negotiations with the local communities and the Aitakai Land Trust Board.
That sounds like a long process.
It is. Third, the logistical cost of importing steel, concrete, and heavy machinery to Taveuni to build a large hotel is astronomical.
Because it all has to come on a slow ferry from the mainland.
Exactly. So there is virtually zero new room supply entering the market. When demand increases, the existing properties have total pricing power.
Right, because where else are you going to go?
Exactly. It is a pure seller's market. Garden Island Resort can raise its prices 15% because they know there is no new competitor opening next door to undercut them. You're either roughing it or you are paying a massive premium.
So you are trapped in this polarized market for your bed. And the disparity in those room prices is perfectly mirrored in the cost of food.
Definitely.
Because you have to eat, and island supply chains are brutal. Let's look at the grocery reality first. If you are staying at that $30 homestay and you go to the Waiyevo market, you can actually get a full day's worth of fresh local produce, taro, cassava, breadfruit, bananas, papayas, for $5 to $8 USD.
Which is incredibly affordable.
Yeah.
Just to ground the currency for our listeners, as of June 2026, one Fijian dollar, the FJD, is roughly equal to 0.144 USD. So your $5 USD is buying you a huge basket of root vegetables and fruit.
But the moment you start buying local root vegetables and want something imported, the math changes violently.
Oh, yes, it does.
Tinned goods, imported snacks, a box of cereal on Taveuni, these cost roughly 2.5 times what you would pay in Suva, the capital city.
Okay.
2.5 times. That feels incredibly exploitative. It feels like airport pricing. You know when you're trapped in Terminal 3, you are thirsty, and a bottle of Aquafina is suddenly $6.
It feels exactly like that to the consumer, yes.
Yeah.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the underlying economic cause is entirely different.
Okay, how so?
Airport pricing is a captive audience markup. It's a monopoly extracting rent because you can't leave.
Right.
Taveuni's grocery pricing is driven by the brutal reality of oceanic supply chains. To get a simple tin of baked beans to a shelf in a Waiyevo general store, it has to be shipped internationally to Fiji, offloaded at the deepwater port in Suva, loaded onto a domestic transport truck, driven to a local wharf, loaded onto a domestic roll-off ferry, sailed across the Coral Sea for 16 hours, unloaded at the Taveuni dock, and driven down an unsealed road to the store.
Oh my God.
Every single one of those touches burns diesel, requires manual labor, and adds friction. You aren't paying for corporate greed. You are paying the true cost of logistics at the edge of the world.
When you break it down like that, it's a miracle the tin of beans even makes it to the shelf.
Truly.
So what about dining out? If you manage to find a local Fijian eatery in a village, a casual lunch will cost you $6 to $10. No. If you want a nice sit-down dinner at the Garden Island Resort restaurant, that is $22 to $40 a person. If you are on the all-inclusive meal plan at Paradise Taveuni, that is bundled into your rate at about $80 to $120 a day per person.
Okay.
And if you want a beer, Fiji Bitter is the local staple, and it is excellent after a dive. It's $4 to $6 at the resorts, though you can't always find it in the villages because many communities have local alcohol restrictions.
Which perfectly transitions us into an incredibly important point about interacting with those villages. Because food, drink, and access on Taveuni are deeply tied to a profound cultural etiquette.
Yes, the savu ceremony.
Absolutely.
If you want to access the waterfalls or the trails in the Buma National Heritage Park, you have to enter local villages, and you cannot just walk in like you own the place.
You definitely cannot.
You have to perform savu, which involves formally presenting a bundle of yakona or kava root to the village chief. You can buy the kava root at the Waiyevo market for $5 to $10. But the ground reports make it very clear this is not an optional tourist activity.
No, it is not. And travelers must understand the gravity of this.
Yeah.
In many parts of the world, Hawaii, parts of Southeast Asia, cultural ceremonies have been largely commodified for tourists. You pay a $50 entrance fee, someone does a traditional dance, you take a photo for Instagram and you leave.
Right, like a show.
That is tourism theater. That is not what Savu is.
What is it then? Like, what is actually happening in that room?
Savu is a living, highly functional cultural protocol. It is the legal and spiritual mechanism by which strangers are brought into the protection and the accountability of the community.
Wow.
You are asking the Taragani Koro, the village headman or chief, for permission to exist on their ancestral land. It commands absolute respect.
Okay, so how do you do it?
You bring the kava root. You sit on a woven pandanus mat with your legs crossed. You remove your hat, and your sunglasses, leaving them on implies you think you are above the chief.
Got it.
You ensure your shoulders and knees are covered. The kava is mixed with water in a wooden bowl called a tanoa. When a cup is offered to you, you clap your cupped hands once. You drink the entire cup in one gulp. It tastes a bit like earthy, muddy water and makes your lips numb, and then you clap 3 times.
Okay.
Through this shared ritual, you are transformed from a dangerous outsider into a recognized guest. You must ask permission before taking a single photograph. If you cannot abide by the gravity of that protocol, you simply should not leave the boundaries of your westernized resort.
It is about being a gracious guest in someone else's home, not a consumer buying a ticket to a theme park.
Beautifully said.
I think that is a vital distinction. So, adding up the food, the rooms, the logistics, and the deep respect required, well, I mean, what is the actual daily burn rate?
Rated members.
Let's run the exact numbers for 24 hours on Taveuni so our listeners know exactly what their bank account is going to feel.
Let's look at the financial reality.
Low budget, $85 to $120 a day. That gets you your $35 to $50 homestay, $15 to $25 on self-catered market food, and maybe a $20 to $30 snorkel day trip.
Yeah.
But frankly, trying to maintain this is genuinely difficult and largely counterproductive. You are coming to a world-class deep-water dive destination just to snorkel on the surface. You are fighting the primary purpose of the island at that price point.
You are. It is like traveling to the Swiss Alps and refusing to buy a ski lift ticket.
Great analogy. Then we have the mid-budget, $220 to $300 a day. This is the honest, pragmatic number for a diver. It covers your $130 to $160 dive lodge room, $40 to $60 for 2 solid filling meals, and $120 for a 2-tank boat dive.
Which, by global standards, $120 for a 2-tank dive in a pristine marine reserve is incredibly reasonable.
Really?
Oh yeah, you would pay much more in the Caribbean for severely degraded reefs.
Good to know. High budget, $450 to $600 a day. Now you are in the boutique $200 to $350 room, paying $80 to $120 for the meal plan, and spending $150 to $200 on your daily dive and maybe a guided waterfall trek. But here's the category that I really want to argue with you about. The digital nomad.
Here we go.
Monthly cost, $4,500 to $6,000. But the definitive verdict on the nomad lifestyle here, not viable. So what does this all mean? In an era where Starlink exists and where people genuinely believe they can just take their laptop and work from literally anywhere, why doesn't that work here? If I have a portable satellite dish and $5,000 a month, why can't I work from Taveuni?
Because Taveuni actively, structurally resists the nomadification of travel.
Okay, explain that.
To be a successful digital nomad, you don't just need a laptop. You need an underlying foundation of frictionless infrastructure.
Right.
You need reliable broadband, yes, but you also need easy digital banking. You need air-conditioned cafes designed for lingering, you need ergonomic workspaces, and you need a transient community of peers operating on similar time zones. Taveuni offers exactly 0 of those things.
0.
Even if you bring a Starlink, the island's power grid relies on local diesel generators that fluctuate and fail. When the generator hiccups, your router reboots during your crucial Zoom call.
Oh, your boss is going to love that.
Exactly. The humidity will degrade your electronics, there are no co-working spaces, and crucially, the friction of daily life securing transport, getting supplies, dealing with cash takes actual time and physical energy.
You're spending half your day just trying to exist.
Yes. The island is designed for diurnal living, waking with the sun, sleeping when it sets, not sinking to a New York corporate time zone. It preserves its status as a pure vacation destination because it forces you to log off. It flatly refuses to be a green screen backdrop for your remote workday.
I honestly kind of love that. It demands that you take a real vacation. You cannot half-measure Taveuni.
No, you can't.
But getting to that vacation is where the real spending happens. Let's look at the international flight costs.
Brace yourself.
From Sydney, you are looking at $850 to $1,300 round trip. From Auckland, $830 to $1,100. From London, it's a brutal haul, $1,100 to $1,500. Toronto is roughly 130 Canadian dollars, plus a $250 to $400 domestic add-on from Vancouver. And from Los Angeles, you are starting at $957 round trip. But all of that money and all of those hours only gets you to the mainland international airport in Nadi. The domestic leg from Nadi up to Taveuni will cost you another $125 to $300 round trip. If you fly from Suva, it's $140 to $215.
And that domestic leg, that final hour of flying, is exactly where the deepest peril of this entire trip lies.
Yes, it is. You can have the budget and you can have the time off work, but if you do not understand the logistics of Taveuni, your trip will violently fall apart.
It really will.
We have 3 named logistics traps, and if you ignore these, they are absolute trip ruiners. Let's break them down. Trap number 1, the domestic flight trap. Here's the reality. Fiji Airways only runs 3 flights a week between Suva and Taveuni.
Just 3.
3. The schedule out of Nadi is just as thin. If there is weather, and remember, this is a tropical rainforest environment, those ATR turboprops get canceled.
And this is where the bottleneck becomes a crisis. If your flight out of JFK gets canceled, they put you on another flight 4 hours later.
Right. It's annoying, but fine.
But if your flight out of Taveuni gets canceled, because there are only a few flights a week, and those planes only hold a few dozen people, you might wait 3 to 5 days for the next available seat. The math simply doesn't allow for quick recovery.
Exactly. And the only alternative to flying is a 16-hour passenger ferry ride across the open ocean to Suva.
Which you do not want to do.
No, definitely not something you want to endure if you have a tight connection.
Right.
So the fix is mandatory. You must build a minimum 1-day buffer into both your arrival and your departure legs. You need explicit travel insurance that covers domestic connection disruptions.
Absolutely.
And you must never, ever book your international departure out of Nadi on the same day you are supposed to fly domestic out of Taveuni.
Never.
Say your flight out of Nadi to LA is at 9 p.m. Do not book a 2 p.m. flight out of Taveuni thinking you have a 7-hour layover. If that propeller plane is grounded because of a thunderstorm, you miss your international flight and you lose thousands of dollars.
That is the ultimate rookie mistake. It happens constantly to travelers who assume island logistics operate with mainland efficiency.
Trap number 2, the cheap Fiji mental accounting trap. Fiji is marketed globally as an affordable, family-friendly tropical destination.
Yes, it is.
And if you are taking a day trip in the Mamanukas near Nadi, it is affordable. But Taveuni is its own bespoke ecosystem. A solo traveler is going to spend $2,800 to $4,200 for a week here. A couple is looking at $5,000 to $7,500.
It adds up fast.
The trap is that people budget $1,500 in their head. They arrive, and they are completely confused and angry as to why they are bleeding money so fast. How does the psychology work? Why do we anchor so badly to the wrong price, even when the data is in front of us?
It is classic behavioral economics, specifically Richard Thaler's concept of mental accounting.
Okay.
Destination marketing operates on the principle of the lowest common denominator. A national tourism board will blast images of pristine beaches across billboards and Instagram with a headline that says, Fiji from $999.
Right, the hook.
As a consumer, your brain anchors to that specific number. You file the concept of Fiji in the affordable tropical getaway folder in your mind.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What the marketing completely blinds you to is the extreme logistical cost of accessing the remote northern islands. Taveuni is not a cheap add-on. It is a premium, specialized, highly remote dive expedition.
Totally different category.
Exactly. You have to manually override the marketing narrative in your brain. You have to create a separate mental account and price Taveuni as its own distinct financial entity. If you don't decouple the marketing myth from the logistical reality, the sticker shock will induce a panic that ruins your entire experience.
That is such a crucial shift in mindset. You have to treat it like you're going to Antarctica, not Cancun.
Yes.
Okay, trap number 3, the ATM and cash access trap. We talked about how there are no ATMs in the Matai tourist zone, but the trap is deeper than that. The resorts accept credit cards, sure, but the EFT POS machines, the card readers, frequently go down.
All the time.
Why? Because, as we mentioned, the island runs on remote diesel generators. When the power flickers, the network drops. The card reader becomes a useless piece of plastic, and you need local Fijian dollars for literally everything else outside the resort. Tips for the dive masters, local taxis, the kava route for the savu ceremony.
You cannot just rely on tapping your Apple Pay or waving your Visa card. The digital infrastructure is a very thin facade over a rugged reality.
So the fix here is critical. Before you ever leave the international airport in Nadi, where there are full, reliable banks and currency exchanges, you have to withdraw cash.
Do not skip this step.
You need to carry at least 200 to 300 Fijian dollars in small denominations for your entire stay. That's roughly $88 to 132 USD. Do not assume the one general store in Nuevo will have cash-out facilities working when you need them.
Cash is resilience. On an island where the power grid is merely a suggestion, cash is the only thing that guarantees you can move, that you can eat, and that you can participate in the culture.
Okay, so we've padded you in financial contingency, we've warned you about the turbulent flights, and we've got your kava route ready for the chief.
Good to go.
Let's talk about physical well-being. Are you actually physically safe here? Violent crime is extremely rare, and a lot of this comes down to a cultural concept called karakir, which translates to reciprocal generosity.
Right.
This creates an environment where strangers are actively welcomed. But I want to push back on this a little bit. As an outsider, how do I know I'm actually under that umbrella of protection and not just viewed as a walking ATM? How does an abstract concept like reciprocal generosity actually dictate ground-level safety?
Well, it's not an abstract concept. It is the absolute structural foundation of Fijian social architecture.
How so?
Karakir means that resources, support, and crucially accountability are communally shared. In a village setting, the individual is secondary to the collective.
Oh.
Everyone is intimately accountable to the chief, to the elders, and to their extended family network. An offense committed by one person, like stealing a tourist's camera or harming a visitor, doesn't just reflect partly on the thief. It brings profound, enduring shame on the entire extended family and the village.
Oh, wow.
So when you are welcomed into a village through Savu, you are officially recognized as a guest of the collective. The social cost of harming you is catastrophically high for a local individual within their own community. The ground-level safety you experience isn't just politeness. It is the result of incredibly strong, invisible bonds of communal accountability.
That makes perfect sense. The pressure to uphold the village's honor creates a safety net for the tourist.
Exactly.
And that reflects in the data for solo travelers, specifically solo female travelers. They report highly positive experiences on Taveuni, largely because the dive lodges, places like Taveuni Ocean Sports and Swiss Fiji Divers, operate on a very communal model.
And you're rarely alone.
Right. You are eating at long tables and diving with a tight-knit group. However, you still need to dress conservatively outside the resorts. Women should cover their shoulders and knees. Men should avoid walking through villages bare-chested. This isn't a moral judgment. It's a practical sign of respect that dramatically improves your interactions.
Exactly. You are visually signaling that you recognize and honor their social norms, which further cements your status as a respected guest under that umbrella of karakir.
But there are real dangers on Taveuni, and they are natural, not human. If you are trekking in the Buma trails to the waterfalls, you must go in pairs. Not because of crime, but because the trails are rugged, the markers are inconsistent, and wet season flash flooding is sudden and severe.
Very dangerous.
If you twist an ankle, the medical infrastructure is limited. There is a small hospital in Nuevo, but any major medical event requires an emergency evacuation flight back to Suva or Nadi.
Which brings us to the absolute necessity of DAN insurance, Divers Alert Network insurance. It is not just a recommendation, it is essential.
Let's talk about why. If a diver pushes past their limits on the Great White Wall and gets decompression sickness, the bends what actually happens logistically.
Well, decompression sickness means nitrogen bubbles have formed in your bloodstream and tissues because you ascended too quickly. It is excruciatingly painful and potentially fatal.
Right.
Taveuni does not have a hyperbaric chamber. The nearest decompression chamber is in Suva.
Oh, no.
If you get the bends, you cannot just hop on a regular commercial flight, because the altitude and reduced cabin pressure will cause those nitrogen bubbles to expand further, killing you.
That's terrifying.
You need a specialized low-altitude medical evacuation flight immediately. If you do not have specialized dive insurance that explicitly covers emergency air evacuation, you are looking at tens of thousands of dollars out of pocket, paid up front, before they will even dispatch the aircraft. You are risking absolute financial ruin.
Buy the insurance. Seriously.
Yes.
And on a much more basic health level, water. Do not drink the tap water at the budget properties. You need to budget an extra $2 to $4 a day for bottled water if you are staying in a guest house. The resorts will provide filtered water, but otherwise do not risk a gastrointestinal bug ruining your trip.
It is the ultimate irony of island travel, right? You're surrounded by millions of gallons of pristine ocean and breathtaking freshwater waterfalls, but you still need to carefully manage and budget for your drinking water.
Well, speaking of that pristine ocean and those waterfalls, it is time to finally get to the payoff.
Let's do it.
Because if you endure the logistics and pay the premium and navigate the cultural etiquette, the rewards are staggering. Let's start with the best moments. The Rainbow Reef and the Soma Strait. We're talking 32 kilometers of reef wall, 30-meter-plus visibility, soft corals in glowing pinks, purples, and oranges.
Unbelievable.
On a calm, dry season morning, this is arguably the most beautiful diving experience accessible to recreational divers anywhere in the South Pacific.
And within that massive reef system is a specific site that borders on mythical in the dive community.
Yes, the Great White Wall. Here's where it gets really interesting because the sensory experience sounds unbelievable.
Oh, it is.
Imagine this. You drop down into the water. You descend to about 15 meters, which is about 50 feet. You are drifting along a fairly standard, colorful reef, and suddenly the topography just falls away.
Just drops.
The reef transforms into a sheer vertical face, and it drops straight down past 30 meters, which is 100 feet, down into the abyss. But it isn't dark.
No.
The entire vertical wall is covered in luminescent, ice-white, soft corals. It literally looks like a vertical mountain of snow underwater.
Wow.
You have the deep, dark blue of the ocean current above you and the sheer face of blinding white coral dropping endlessly below you. It is pure sensory overload. Experienced divers consistently rank this in their top 3 dive sites on the entire planet. But to do it right, you need to be an advanced diver, right?
Absolutely. The top of the wall starts around 15 meters. But the true visual impact, the cavern swim-throughs, and the densest concentration of the white dendronethia corals happens between 20 and 30 meters.
Okay.
A standard open water certification only qualifies you to dive to 18 meters. If you only have your open water, you are skimming the top of the wall, looking down into it, but you aren't truly experiencing the scale of the drop-off.
Oh, that would be a bummer.
It is. You need an advanced open water certification to safely descend to 30 meters. At that depth, nitrogen narcosis starts to become a factor, your air consumption increases rapidly, and you have a very limited bottom time, maybe 15 to 20 minutes before you have to start ascending to avoid decompression limits.
Right.
The current is usually ripping, so it's a drift dive. You don't swim, you simply adjust your buoyancy and let the ocean fly you past this blinding white cathedral. It is a geological and biological masterpiece. It is the reason people endure 3-day flight delays.
A blinding white cathedral. Incredible. And above water, the best moments are just as wild. The Taveuni waterfalls in the Buma National Heritage Park. It's a 45-minute hike into the jungle.
Yep.
There are 3 tiered waterfalls with massive swimming holes. Most tourists stop at the first one. If you push through the heat and humidity to the second and third tiers, you get near total pristine solitude.
It's beautiful.
And for the birders, the orange dove. It looks like a neon glowing orange tennis ball with wings. It is found literally nowhere else on Earth except Taveuni and one neighboring island. A local guide can position you to see one in a single morning walk.
But we promised the unvarnished reality.
Yeah.
So we have to talk about the honest disappointments.
They do, and the first one is the beach quality. Taveuni is a volcanic island. The beaches here are not the powdery postcard white sand you see in Maldives advertisements. They are largely rugged, gray, or black volcanic sand, mixed with coral rubble. If your dream vacation is lounging on blindingly white sand, sipping a cocktail, you will be disappointed.
This is a classic misalignment of expectations.
Right.
Travelers must firmly separate the idea of a generic tropical beach vacation from a specialized dive expedition.
Yeah.
Taveuni is aggressively the latter.
Right. And another brutal reality, rainy days. On a gray, heavily showery day here, there is genuinely very little to do.
Nothing to do inside.
The infrastructure for non-outdoor activities basically does not exist. There are no museums, no shopping malls, no cinemas to duck into. You are sitting in your burr reading a book while the rain hammers the roof.
Yeah.
And finally, dining monotony. If you are here for a week, eating at the same 2 resort restaurants gets incredibly repetitive. The culinary variety is just very limited compared to the mainland.
You are trading culinary variety and indoor entertainment for ecological purity and underwater access. You cannot have both at the edge of the map. It's a fundamental trade-off.
So if you are listening to this and you are thinking, you know what, I just want white sand, I want easy dining, I want a predictable ferry, and I don't care about a 30-meter blinding white coral wall, where should you actually be going?
Good question.
We have two named comparisons to look at. Alternative 1, Savu, located over on the neighboring island of Vanuatu. It's a 30-minute ferry ride from Taveuni, or a $175 to $250 flight from Nadi.
Savu is the ultimate compromise candidate. It has much better developed ground infrastructure.
Like actual towns.
Yes, it's an actual functioning town with real restaurants, diverse markets, a marina for yachts, and even natural hot springs.
And it is cheaper. A mid-range daily budget in Savu lands at $120 to $200 a day. That is roughly $80 a day less than Taveuni. Plus, because you are still relatively close to the Somosomo Strait, you can still book a fast boat to day trip across the water and dive Rainbow Reef.
Right.
But the trade-off is that the overall accommodation quality on Savu is slightly lower. The dive logistics to get to the reef are much more complicated. You're spending hours on a boat just commuting to the dive site, and you lose that total mystical immersion of being on the garden island itself.
Then there is alternative 2, the complete polar opposite of Taveuni.
The Asawa Islands. If this is your very first time in Fiji and you want that classic turquoise water, white sand visual that you see on the tourism brochures, the Asawas deliver instantly.
Yep.
You buy a Yasawa Flyer ferry day pass for $80 to $120 USD at a Port Denaro, which is right next to Nadi. It is seamless. You can find accommodation on the Blue Lagoon Islands starting at $80 a night. Your overall budget is $150 to $250 a day. It is vastly cheaper than Taveuni at every single tier.
This raises an important question about resource allocation for travelers. Where are you putting your money, your time, and your effort?
Right.
The Asawas give you the easy visual. It requires very little logistical friction to get a beautiful beach photo. Suva and Taveuni require a massive investment of logistics, planning, and cash, but they provide a profound, hard-earned reward.
I like that phrasing.
The Asawas only offer recreational-level, shallow reef diving. If the underwater experience is your primary driver, Taveuni has no real competition. So the summary is clear. Choose the Asawas for your first Fiji trip, or a pure, frictionless beach holiday. Choose Taveuni to check off the pinnacle of your dive trip bucket list.
Which brings us to the end. The final synthesis. Is it worth it? We have constructed the verdict matrix. We've laid all the cards on the table. We have tallied the costs, exposed the traps, marveled at the white walls, and acknowledged the black sand.
We covered it all.
We have broken this down into 5 specific traveler types. Let's volley through these verdicts so you know exactly where you stand. Matrix Type 1, the serious recreational diver.
Yes, absolutely, without a single moment of hesitation. If you hold an advanced open water certification and you have not yet dived the Somosomo Strait, Taveuni belongs at the very top of your itinerary before anywhere else in the Pacific.
You are looking at a budget of $3,000 to $4,500 for the full trip if you are coming from Australia or New Zealand. You book the mid-range dive lodge package to bundle your room and your daily 2-tank dives. It is expensive, the flights are annoying, but for that unmatched 30-meter visibility underwater access, it is worth every single dollar.
100%.
Matrix Type 2, the beach holiday family.
No. This is the absolute wrong island for you.
Why?
The beaches are volcanic. The resort infrastructure for child-friendly entertainment is incredibly thin. The flights are infrequent and prone to delays that will exhaust young children. And kids under 12 cannot even access the deep-water dive product that justifies the high prices.
So you redirect. You take the family to the Mamanukas or the Asawas. You get the easy, frictionless Fiji experience. You save $1,500 to $2,000. And you have a measurably better, significantly less stressful holiday.
Definitely.
Matrix Type 3, the solo adventure traveler.
Conditional yes. If you are comfortable with genuine, unapologetic remoteness, if you have immense patience for infrastructure gaps and power outages, and if you have a spirit of true, respectful cultural engagement, Taveuni is extraordinary.
It's an adventure.
The warmth of the communal dive lodges, the gravity of the Suva welcome, the solitary birding it's all incredibly real and unfiltered.
But the condition is brutal. Do not come here on a tight budget with zero cash buffer. If your domestic flight cancels or you have a minor medical need, you are stuck. You must have a strict $500 contingency buffer built into your budget just for emergencies and logistical delays.
You need that safety net.
Matrix Type 4. the budget backpacker.
Not in 2026. Yes, a roll-off ferry from Suva is genuinely cheap at $30 to $45. And technically, a $30 a night cold water homestay exists.
Yeah.
But the entire economic system of the island is rigged against you.
Right. You are dealing with a 3-flight-a-week air grid, near-zero cheap meal infrastructure outside of buying raw taro at the market, and the inescapable fact that the island's main attraction, diving, costs a minimum of $120 a day.
Yeah.
This destination ruthlessly punishes the underprepared and the underfunded. Wait until you have real savings to come here and do it properly.
I agree completely.
Finally, Matrix Type 5. The couple or honeymoon traveler.
Yes, if you spend properly. At the boutique and luxury levels, specifically Garden Island Resort or Paradise Taveuni, this is one of the most genuinely romantic, secluded, and visually spectacular destinations in the entire South Pacific.
Oh, I bet.
The intimacy of the small properties, the sunsets over the strait, the shared adrenaline-fueled wonder of drifting along the Great White Wall. It's magic.
But you have to fund it. You need to budget $7,000 to $10,000 for a 10-night trip for two if you are flying from the UK, North America, or Australia. You have to treat it as a once-in-a-decade investment and arrive knowing exactly what you are paying for, which is pristine isolation.
Yeah.
If you do that, it is worth it.
But before we go, I want to leave you with one final conceptual thought you can see.
Okay.
We have spent this entire time dissecting how Taveuni's magic is protected by its intentional remoteness. The weight-restricted turboprops, the expensive unsealed roads, the lack of ATMs. These logistical hurdles are the physical shields that keep the island pristine. They are the barrier to entry.
Right.
But what happens when climate change begins to chronically disrupt the delicate oceanic temperatures that feed those 32 kilometers of soft coral? Or, equally pressing from a human perspective, what happens when more global tourism awards inevitably pressure the local government to pave those dirt roads, build a massive international airstrip, and invite the world in?
Wow.
Does the magic of Taveuni actually survive the arrival of the mainstream? Or is its difficult, frustrating isolation the only thing keeping it alive?
If this gave you the honest verdict you needed, follow the show. New episodes drop every day.
That is the honest verdict from Phil and H.